Good seeing you guys.
Hey, Josh. Let me just make sure we're broadcasting. Okay.
Yeah, I hear you. Yeah.
Okay. Hey, William. Nice to see you. We only had you had the blank screen on you last night, so you're incognito.
I was going in and out. I was at my parents' house, and I'm like, oh, I'll just stay for dinner, and it turned into, okay, Mom, I gotta run home now. So I actually had dinner twice. I had it at 6 and right around towards the last hour. So it was.
Gotcha.
We need a volunteer for minutes tonight.
Only one application.
Cannot hear you, Linda. You're muted.
You able to read lips?
No.
Yeah. Okay. So. Okay. I guess I can do it. Hey, Barbara. I don't know. Barbara, you want to take minutes?
I'll send you the document. We need a yes or no, Barbara.
Okay.
Maybe she can't hear it. Oh, SEMA? I took minutes last month.
I know.
I mean, I can. I don't know.
Wait.
Hey, Barbara, you want to take minutes or SEMA? Can you hear us?
I can't hear anything.
Oh.
Oh. You may need connect again.
Oh, here we go. Anyone want to take minutes?
Christian, you should now have the ability to share your screen.
Okay, great.
You know, when I use the background, it breaks up and it looked like, you know, the Invisible Man, and you get this outline and it's like this really, really crazy thing, and I haven't been able to figure out how to do it. So.
I think that's how Star Trek did the Major Disruptor.
Yeah. So.
Barbara, can you hear us? Barbara cannot hear us. Cannot hear us.
Hold on, let me see.
Is it just the one application?
Just the one application, yeah. Plus,
all right.
Oh, okay. You shouldn't, Mark, you're doing enough.
No, I need somebody from the committee to do it. Doug, can you do the minutes?
You unmute yourself. Mute? I'm not mute.
There
yeah.
you are.
I'm knee deep in Medicaid applications right now. Yeah, but when do you need them by to be sent to you?
You know what, guys? I'll take them this.
Okay, let me send.
When you need
done.
Let me send you the document, Linda.
I have the. Okay, I think I have the document. Oh, send me the document to take the minutes on. Yeah.
Yeah.
You to do it. Just tell me when you need them.
I just emailed it to you.
Yesterday. It's okay. Okay, where am I going to open the document in?
It's a Word document. You have to
Hello.
download it first, I guess.
Okay.
I heard it.
Christian,
You're broadcasting and
I'll
you're.
take minutes and then I'll add it to it. Don't worry, I'll get them to you tomorrow. We'll do them.
Okay, we do have quorum now, so I suppose we could start.
We do.
Yeah.
Well, no, wait. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, we do 7. Yeah, we've got a quorum. Okay. So we have one. We have one application. I don't know if anybody's had a chance to take a look at it.
Let
It's a liquor license,
Let
right?
me let me share the agenda with everybody. So this
Yep.
is the
Here
this
it
is the
is.
agenda tonight.
Okay.
Not extensive.
I looked at it.
So the one liquor license, and then we want to plan the talk about the webinar and any new
Right.
business.
Right. Okay. So, so the liquor license, if anybody's had a chance to look at it, it's 7 days a week. It's at 120 Riverside Drive. It's just background music, and it's from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. Hey, Andrew. So that's really, it's a pretty, it's, I don't know if the applicant is here.
Yeah, he is. Let me share the application. Hold on.
Okay. And then we'll ask him to speak. It's a pretty pro forma thing.
Except it's on Riverside Drive, which is unusual, right?
Not really where it is, because
Riverside
on
Boulevard.
Riverside Drive, there are a whole bunch of restaurants down there now.
It's Riverside Boulevard, not Drive.
Yeah,
Oh, thank
Yeah,
you
I was-
very much.
yeah.
Thank you.
sorry.
Okay, so let's start then. This is 6:34.
Okay, and Alan Haddad has raised his hand. Do you want to hear from the applicant? Can we unmask that man?
Mr. Leon is here also, apparently.
Okay, so
Let me promote Alon to panelists.
Yep.
Okay, so now we have both applicants in the applicant is available now.
okay, and we're looking at the
Hey
application.
guys,
How you doing?
Hi.
hi guys.
Hi, how you doing?
Finally.
Move it up so we could see the rest of the application, maybe? Thanks.
Okay.
Is this cafe planned for Riverside Boulevard? Because I don't know of any other restaurants that are right on Riverside Boulevard.
Yes, there is another wine bar just a block away from us.
And
It's
it
at 100 Riverside Boulevard.
really, oh, okay. And what number is that it's next to?
He just said
100.
100?
Yes.
They're on 65th Street. We're on 66th Street.
It makes a lot of sense. How big is the restaurant, by the way?
Ours,
Mm-hmm.
the cafe part is about 1,100 square feet.
Well, I'm sorry. What, could you repeat that? I'm sorry, I was talking.
It's 1,100 square feet.
Okay, so it's not huge. Okay. And I assume you're going to be serving breakfast or else getting people drunk at 7 a.m.?
No, we're gonna serve breakfast, but the cafe hours are 7 a.m. to 9. That's why when we filled up the application, we said 7 a.m., but no, we're not serving alcohol at 7 a.m.
Too bad. Okay.
They actually
Too bad.
on the email they said they're going to start serving about 4 or 5 p.m.
Okay.
Yes,
Yeah.
and Sundays we do brunch.
Yeah, Saturday and Sundays we'll do brunch.
May I ask you, did you put up any signs and let your neighbors?
Nobody's seeing signs right now, Barbara. It's not even allowed. That's the new
We did
protocol.
have a conversation with the building board,
Yeah,
multiple members of the board, just basically asking for permission, but more than anything, just letting them know that we're going through the process. Everybody was in favor, but the truth is they've been supportive of the cafe from day one. We've been here for about 10 years now, and they're very good. We got very lucky with them, and we're just doing our best to keep it quiet, keep it clean, and
okay.
We've always had a good rapport with the board.
So this is a liquor license, right?
Correct.
We're looking at a liquor license. So you've been there for 10 years, you say?
yes.
Or there had been one there? So
No,
is
we've
this,
been here for 10 years.
Yes.
okay, and you hadn't served liquor before?
No,
Never.
I see. Okay. And what kind of cuisine, what do you serve?
it's just more, right now it's just pastry, sandwiches,
Uh-huh.
dishes, more of like little bites. We are planning to update the menu with adding, obviously, if we have the liquor license, we'll add more of like a pizza style stuff and baked sandwiches and just take it up a notch.
There'll still be small bites, but to add to the menu for the liquor.
You don't have a full kitchen or anything like that, do you?
No, we don't.
The
One
cafe
moment.
manager is actually a chef as well, so I'm sure he'll have, you know, his handful when we, if and when we get that.
Uh, just for the record, Mr. Shahad, what's the name of the person with you there?
I'm sorry, that's David, my business partner.
Sorry about that.
We
Last
own the
name-
company together. We
last
open it together.
Last name?
Tobon, Tobon.
Tobon, and I need an email address, please.
We have one on the application.
Okay, well, it makes my life easy.
I'll give it to you, David at blunyc.com.
Okay.
May I ask you a question?
Yes, of course.
Go ahead.
So I'm somewhat familiar with the area, having done some work down there. I know that along Riverside Boulevard, most commercial spaces were not allowed, retail, but I think you're just north of the border where retail is allowed. Your office is really a real estate office, isn't that right? Right. So this is sort of an adjunct, I assume, a good, although you can't sign any contracts if people are intoxicated, you know that. but I guess it's good for business. Right. So it's an adjunct. Are you a subtenant, or you are also the owners of the brokerage?
We own the brokerage as well, and our business was always brokerage. We both started in the real estate business, and when we had the opportunity to open up a store on Riverside Boulevard, we also recognized a problem that there is no coffee shop around here. So we decided to do some sort of a collaboration between coffee and real estate. And the truth is, we had another location in mind, and then, you know, kind of everything, the world started going upside down. So everything was on the back burner now, and we're just focusing on Riverside. And it's actually been a very good ride for us, because a lot of people come to the coffee shop, they interact with our agents, and they get friendly, and, you know, it just kind of works itself out.
What's the name of the brokerage?
Clever.
Blue Real Estate, BLU.
And let me add something else. We also live in the neighborhood. Alon and I have been here for over 10 years. And
Just moved in. Yeah.
Great. Thank
Great.
you. Appreciate it.
Okay. Call the
Any
question.
other- Well, is there anyone from the public visiting us tonight who would like to talk about this? Okay, now we can call the question.
Okay.
Hang on one second. There's a person named Renee Roden. Is Renee Roden wanting to speak?
Oh,
Yes, go
Hi.
ahead.
from the West Side Rag, so I'm just listening.
Oh,
Okay,
hi.
great. Thanks.
Okay.
Sorry, I didn't.
No, thank you.
He recognized you immediately.
Okay, so all those in favor, raise your hand. So that's
So you want to call the question?
yes, calling the question. Yes, so it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 7.
William,
Jerry, I'm a yes
this
too, please.
committee's
Hold
doing?
on. Paul, if you want to vote on the chat. Okay, so so far that's 7.
Jerry, can I vote yes too? This is Seema.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, Seema is 8. So right now we have 8-0-0-0 till pending hearing from Paul. So now non-committee members.
1, 2, 3. Oh wait, we've got Andrew.
1,
He's a
2,
committee
3.
member.
You know, I counted
1,
him
2.
already. 1, 2, 3.
Committee member. Not committee.
I'm missing somebody. Hold on.
Mark,
It's Roberta, Michelle, and
Oh,
Mark.
William Buzzi. So that's 4-0-0-0
Oh, okay.
from non-committee members. Okay.
So it's 7-0-0-0 and then 4-0-0.
No. 8-0-0-0.
Sorry,
Where's the
bad habit.
Seema was the 8.
Guy before.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, well.
That good or bad, we don't know.
Good.
gentlemen, Good
Oh,
luck.
okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
You're welcome to stay.
Good luck.
Thank you so
Good
much.
luck. Good luck.
Now, we don't know. Are we getting off this call? Are we staying?
You're welcome to stay, but you're welcome to get off the call.
What are we talking about?
We're going to be talking about a webinar, the genesis of which is a brainstorming idea from Madeline Innocent, one of our committee members. And the webinar is really geared to mostly MBE and WBE minority-owned business enterprises. And women-owned business enterprise
So we're
to help them
minority- yeah,
get
we're
loans.
minority owned. Our company, our real estate manager for the company, it's a very nice lady. So I guess we can definitely try to stay on.
Oh, you're welcome to. And then we're going to be talking about DOT, but that's after. Okay. So Madeline, you want to talk about the webinar?
Oh, you know what? I'm sorry. I just wanted to say hello. I think I was on mute the whole time.
Yes, Mr. Leon is the firm
So-
that represents the
Yeah,
Mr. Shabbat.
yeah. My name is Matt Leone. I'm the attorney for those guys. I just wanted to say, guys, you did a great job, and thank you all for taking the time to listen to it tonight.
Oh, thank you for being here, Mr.
Thank you.
Leon. Okay, we're going to continue going on.
Okay.
Okay, so Madeline, we're talking about
Oh, I
a
see.
webinar proposed for everybody. Okay, so the proposed webinar would have a lender. So far, we've got Ponce Bank. Hey, they have expressed an interest in participating. We'll have an attorney and somebody from SBS. And really, the idea is to give small businesses that are primarily minority owned an idea, if they don't have relationships with lenders, how to create those relationships. Take it from here, Madeline.
Oh, you said it all, and that was the main premise. Also, we know that the rents are high in this district, so we could see how we could garner a relationship, as Linda said, with the banks and also with the community, whereas they could get to know one another, and maybe down the line, or hopefully soon, they could move into some of these vacant storefronts. We get some suggestions on how they can communicate with the banks and be a better friend to the banks. So not only with this COVID-19, but in the future, things like this happen, these small businesses would have relationship with banks. That was my main concern. And to have some of the youth work in some of these small businesses as well. So that was my premise for this.
But the part of this was that we knew that a lot of the minority-owned businesses and some women-owned businesses didn't have the same access to the PPP, didn't have access to some of the government loans, and there will be others coming down the line, and small business loans, because they didn't have the same relationships with the banks. So the idea here, for whatever reason, that they didn't trust certain institutions, they just didn't have that relationship. So the idea here is to create an opportunity to create ideas and kind of present a roadway, a pathway for small businesses to develop better relationships
We also had mentioned that
with banks
right.
to understand the retail landscape, et cetera.
Yeah, we also have mentioned that many of these potential business people may be reluctant to approach mainstream banks for loans. So partly it's also educational, to let them know that it's okay, not just banks, other lenders, and as Linda was saying, small business loans, from the government, so they can get going.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like I was saying also too, we're Community Board 7, and we go from 59th to 110th. As Peter was talking about from the bid, he was saying there's minority-owned businesses, I guess from 106 to 110th. But the only business that is in this area is Make My Cake, and they're well-established business that I've known for years, and I'm glad they're here. But we need the community to get to know what we can offer for the community as well. And I think that's a stepping stone to all the, and I don't want to bring this into the conversation, but all the racism and that's going on, and we can all get together and be as one. We all bleed the same color, so, and we all broke at the same time. We all want to go into business, so we all should come together and do something together. That's my main premise.
So we're hoping to get some, Mark.
Yeah, I was going to follow on that, because one of the things I hope would come out of this, and I think Madeline just hit the nail right on the head, is some sort of map or other identification of minority-owned businesses in the district, we may be surprised in both directions, those things that we think that are MWBEs and those that we think are not. But it would be great to start a running list. We're going to be working at the community board office, if it ever reopens, with data mining and keeping better track of some of our data. And so it would be great to start a field that would be searchable for anybody. And it starts with knowing who these folks are. So that's what I hope will also be a part of this. Maybe the second or third step, but a part of this.
Yeah, Andrew, you had your hand up?
Yeah, so no, I think it's a good idea. I just want to let you know.
You're muted.
No, go ahead. We were hearing you. No, continue.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, I think this is a good idea. I just want to know, I just put in the chat a link. My organization is hosting a panel discussion on Monday.
Already, yeah.
Maybe about it's doing business while Black in the hospitality industry. So we have several of our Black board members that own restaurants and bars in the city speaking on the panel, and April Ryan from CNN is moderating. And they're going to cover a lot of the the challenges and issues that come up, similar to access to capital and many of the other challenges and barriers. So just put that in there as an FYI if some people may find it interesting.
And it's at noon, which is great.
I've already registered.
Excellent. Perfect.
Can I, do I have to click on that link and then I can register?
Yep.
Yes.
You should be able to click right through through that link, and then feel free, to share it. I think if you just click on the register from the link, you should be able to register. You'll get an email confirmation with the link, and feel free to share it with other folks you think may be interested.
Fantastic. Oh, thank you, Andrew.
That's great.
So,
Thank you, Andrew.
This is great. So letting you know, we have two of our panelists already. We've got an attorney, a partner from Davidoff, Hutcher, and Citron.
Wow.
You probably know them, Andrew, because okay. So we've got that, and then we've got Madeline. Her name is Madeline, and I don't know her last name. I have it here, but anyway, she's from Ponce Bank, and so we've got two panelists. So now we just have to reach out to SBS. I'm just wondering if we should get maybe Melba or somebody from your from Hospitality Alliance to talk about it. But we're trying to not just talk to the restaurants in this one. We're going to talk to all retail and even office tenants who are in the area. So that's it's small businesses. So any ideas about it, how to really shape it? We can have this discussion now, or you can shoot.
You think the borough office may have a contact with the SBS?
Also the city council, because for quite some time, Helen's office was conducting SBS seminars, which included attorneys, how to negotiate your lease, and connections with banks as well. So I just wanted to echo what Mark said. I think we may be pleasantly surprised. Of course, we need more women in minority-owned business, but I think we might be surprised that we have quite a number. I know some of my clients in this neighborhood are women-owned and minority, and some very great success stories. Maybe we also want to hear from those businesses, those minority and women-owned businesses that are successful and how they did it. Some success stories, like Stufer and Boots is my client, and she's done a wonderful job, and she's a woman-owned business, and she's doing great.
As soon as we set it up, we can send them the link, Linda. Send it out.
As soon as we set it up. Now we're talking about, in terms of dates, we were talking about the 15th, the 15th, 16th, I think it was 15th, 16th, or 17th. It would be the 15th or 16th, which is a Wednesday or a Thursday. It's an afternoon. We could do the 14th. So we've got to get a consensus on that. It's a little soon. We've got 2 out of 3 panelists. We've got to get SBS. Maybe the idea is to do it the following week, the 3rd week of July. I'm not sure.
I'm available anytime.
What does everybody think? I mean, would everybody be available for because it's next week?
Are we talking also middle of the day or afternoon?
Middle of the day. It's got to be noon to 1. Hey, we have to make it noon to 1.
Did you say the 15th?
Yeah, we could do the 15th.
It's only a week away. If you guys are ready, that's great. I can make sure it happens, but you are limiting yourself as to outreach.
Well,
that's what I'm thinking, because I've got to still get SBS in there. That's the only one we were missing. And I've got to write the you know, the bios, you know, on each one of them. So I'm just thinking maybe we should push it up to the 22nd.
That's fine.
That's fine.
Okay. Let's do the 22nd. So I will let everybody know the 22nd because it's the afternoon. Just an FYI, I am moderating a panel tonight called tomorrow at 1 o'clock called Inside the Retail and Hospitality Landscape, What the Future Holds. If anybody's interested, I will send you the invitation for that. It's a business-oriented group, mostly property owners and developers, but it will have some interesting information.
What time is that tomorrow?
It is at 1 o'clock, 1 to 2. It's with Joe Aquino and Barry Cregan and David Z. Do you remember David Z? Shoes? David Z?
Yes. Yes.
Alan Cohn, who's a lender and a debt specialist, and Bernard Paternina, who works for Silvercrest Asset Management. So if that interests you, shoot me an email later and I'll send you the thing in the morning. I'll send you the link in the morning. So,
thanks.
So which brings us to, this is a nice fast meeting.
The DOT letter?
Okay, the DOT letter. Okay, guys. Andrew, I should let you take this one over because I get apoplectic when I think about DOT had 3 months to put this together and restaurants are being fined and DOB is sending people over to harass the restaurateurs and now DEP. So we want to write a letter. So Andrew.
Yeah, so
can I just, I'm sorry to interrupt. Can I just ask a question?
Yeah.
I understand that things changed and, you know, there was all this stuff, but what's to be accomplished by writing this letter?
Just to let them know that they didn't do their job. I think that
I think they know that. Like my feeling is safety is the most important thing here. We all get that. They messed up.
Yeah.
And we're going to write them a letter and so what?
You know, we work with them. I don't think it's a good idea. I think there's nothing to be gained by it.
Really?
I feel the same way. I say, what are we getting out of this? Except feeling better about saying how annoyed we are?
Yeah.
Are there any outstanding fines or have the fines been waived? Can we advocate?
My understanding is that there has not been any fines issued. They are not interested in issuing any fines. They really are just seeking compliance for safety issues. They rolled it out. They quickly realized that not having the additional barriers in the streets, basically in these curb spaces, posed a real safety hazard. And then a few days after, they updated the guidance and are applying it retroactively. So there's a lot of restaurants that built something out based on the requirements they were given and then are being told they had 24 hours to basically come into compliance. And not that they would have their privilege revoked, just that they couldn't then operate these curb space dining spaces until they came into compliance. So
I hate to be a naysayer here, but
no, this is a consensus. That's what
I've just seen a lot of these designs that were out on the street as I walk around, and I thought to myself many times, for businesses that set this up, who thinks this is a good idea? Who thinks this is safe? We should be thinking safety when we set this up to begin with. Like, why are we just putting up a stanchion with a rope? Who thinks that that's even remotely safe? Like, there has to be some responsibility on the businesses to do the right thing here. And I get that the things changed, but let's just use our brains. Sometimes people aren't paying attention when they're driving, or the customer who's in this area may wander. It should be enclosed. It should be safe. Like, this is just common sense to me. That's my feeling.
Okay, I mean, the problem here is that all of a sudden overnight, and this is how I saw it, the onus was on the restaurateurs, was on the restaurant owners to come up with their own ideas. Not everybody had the perspicacity that you did to really enclose it.
By the way, I'm not saying I did. I'm just saying when I would, as a business owner, as just a person, I thought this.
But since then, business owners, this is not the time for business owners to have to shell out thousands and thousands of dollars. And here's the thing, DOT has their own barriers, and they could have started us off with those programs, and they didn't. And we asked them about it when we met with them before the 22nd. So they didn't have any plans. And we said, well, is there, you know, will you loan them to the restaurants until they, no. And then they gave them 24 hours to get things up. So I think there's a problem here. And I think, and I know they've gotten a lot of flack. I know they've gotten a lot of bad ink about it. But the other thing is the day they were rolling it out on July 22nd, they started milling Columbus Avenue and Amsterdam Avenue between 72nd and 79th because Peter didn't talk to Paul. Sorry, Paul.
Linda, there's no question that they have made a lot of mistakes, but those mistakes have already been made and we need to move forward with them and help the restaurants any way we can. And by writing a biting letter to DOT, I don't think serves any purpose. Some of the places that went up right away, I agree with Josh. They were like death traps, you know, with a very flimsy border between them and the cars. There's nothing more important than safety. We all want our restaurants to succeed, but safety comes first in my book.
Wasn't there it seems like there was a bifurcated thing here, right? We had the single lane permits and then the multi-lane permits, but there was, as I understand, and Andrew, perhaps you could speak to this, and Josh, that the retroactive decision was only on the single lanes, and
so correct, so there are two for the curb space. So it's the parking spots. When I say curb space, so for the curb space, there were two different barrier requirements. One was for streets that had more than 2 lanes of traffic,
right?
And then one for 2 or fewer lanes. The guidance was then, or the requirements were then updated to make the 2 or fewer lanes essentially the same as the more than 2 lanes. That included having an at least 18-inch wide barrier, as well as some other specifications as well. There were a couple of changes, however, that were made to the more than 2 lanes of traffic, one of which was that you could not have gaps in between the barriers. In the original guidance, you could have, I forget what it was.
It was up to 4 feet, yeah.
Yeah, 4 feet in between like planters, for example. Now it needs to basically be continuous with no gap.
Yeah.
But the idea that as a business owner, you would build that and say, oh, this seems safe to me just seems nuts. Like,
well, they were putting up their own stanchions. They were just, you know.
Right, so that's my point. So we're going to write a letter and say, okay, you guys made a mistake or erred or didn't prepare with these guidelines. We all know that, but so what? It's over.
No. I think the issue, and I definitely will defer to everyone, you know, to the consensus. But the original thing was that I was getting calls from restaurant owners saying they were afraid of getting fines. Andrew, we had a discussion yesterday with a restaurant owner, and we were talking about $1,000 fines, and that's what we were talking about with DOT, that they didn't get it, they didn't have it together, and then they had no right to start bringing in different DOB and DEP to agents to check the cafes, the curbside cafes.
Well, actually, I think they're within the rights to do that. You know, they can always check. But the fact was about fines. You know, we wouldn't want them to be fining restaurants because of this late ruling. I'm just giving them 24 hours to do it.
Yeah, I think it's my understanding that there have not been any fines issued by DOT for non-compliance. Yeah. Also, that DOT is trying to work cooperatively with everyone to get them into compliance for all the safety reasons that have been mentioned already. I guess my comment on whether we write a letter or not would be, are we asking for something specific in the letter, or is the letter just to say, you screwed up?
Right.
We want you to know that you screwed up. Because I think, well,
I'll just to add, I'll speak from my experience that I saw a place next to one of our places where someone from DOT came by who may or may not have been as well versed as they should have been or could have been with all the rules and regulations, but they didn't fine them. They just said, you need to just fix this. There wasn't a fine. There was more of a, this is information, please make this safe. And, you know, and I didn't see them come back. And I've been out and working, every day since this has gone on, and I've been talking with my business partners and all this. And so I do think there's been an effort with a lack of education maybe on the people who are doing the checking to not be fining, just to say, hey, let's make this safe for people.
I know Alan Haddad just asked to speak. We've got a restaurateur here, another restaurateur here. You want to speak, Mr. Haddad?
Yeah, I just want to say one thing, because we had the same experience as what Mr. Cohen just brought up, and they came to the place, and we downloaded the sketch from the city site. We built based on the first sketch, and a couple of days later they updated, so we had to change that. The only thing I would say, I know nothing about the whole going into the city and writing letters and all that, but all I can say is that I feel like there's a lot of restaurants, small business owners, people that don't necessarily can afford to even build those structure outside. And, it costs us a lot of money to build. It costs us a lot of money to fix it. But eventually, it's like, it's part of your space. So you got to make it look nice, just as nice as your indoor space, which we all obviously don't know when it's going to be open. So I think that if the city had a plan or some sort of an idea to help businesses that cannot afford to build by their new regulation, or maybe the city can provide something and then take it back and store it. I don't know. I just feel like the purpose of sending something to the city should be to help the mom and pops shops that cannot afford to go and spend thousands of dollars to actually build it. Because it cost us close to 10 grand to put it up there, and with the plants and, with the tent outside. And I don't know how long it's going to be in use, but we had to do it, because if not, we would have no business. So I feel like if there was some way to help people who cannot put up that money, and I'm sure there is a lot of it that are not fortunate to have that, and I think this is what the city should focus on, because obviously nobody was prepared for this. So I can't really complain to the city for changing the regulation. And I'll be honest, I don't know what the difference between 5 inches barrier to 18 inches is actually going to make if a car is driving 20 miles an hour. I don't know if it's going to make any difference. So I think it's more of like, let's put a lot of reflective lights. Let's make sure that everybody can see from every corner. And the actual width of the barrier, I don't know. I just feel like it was almost, I can't blame the city for it, but I would say we should find a way to help people who can't afford to build anything outside, but still want to have their business going. That's just my opinion.
Fair point, total fair points. But again, to me, safety is the most important thing.
Maybe the city can loan Boston barriers in situations where a restaurant can't afford it.
So if we're going to write a letter, then it could be a letter that would be requesting the city to help. And Josh is correct, Josh and Barbara, the thing about the complaining, since they're not really looking to find, the original purpose we had, is really smooth. But we could certainly write a letter to ask them to help more.
Yeah, I would
just. I have a question. I have a question regarding. So obviously, this is the first time that's happened to us, to the city, and hopefully, we will not have to deal with the second wave. This is more of like an open question, just because I'm trying to understand. Is the city, who would make regulations with safety in regards to what Josh is talking about, right? Like, who would say, here's a list of things you need to do? So I'm trying to think creatively. If I was a business owner, what were some things I would do? I'm thinking like, Josh is concerned of like people, getting hit by cars or bikes or whatever, right? People just, accidents happen. If I was a business owner, I'd probably buy a bunch of yellow tape the surrounding areas to kind of give you like a warning track, very similar to our train station. So I wonder if we can not only just write a letter to the DOT, but to anyone else who may have the ability to, I guess, create a future checklist. Like, again, God forbid if we have to deal with this again, we would have a list of recommended best practices for business owners who could build, or even not even build, just buy like, you know, $5 tape to just create a border of a warning track area kind of thing. So I'm just thinking of ways that we can communicate that and have business owners just have a better frame, a better idea of what to build in the future if we have to deal with something like that.
Let's hope we never have to deal with this.
Yeah.
Roberta?
I just, oops. So I was thinking that, you know, if you do write a letter to DOT, it should really say that we're concerned about the restaurants and that safety is important and that we'd like DOT and the police to figure out ways to help the restaurants stay in business and maintain their outside space without putting the onus on the restaurants, you know, and there may be supplies that are available that DOT and the police have that could be used temporarily and taken back when it's no longer necessary.
So reframe this as a more positive, in a more positive way, saying that. Exactly. Okay, Andrew, you're muted.
Yeah, so no, I'm muted. So yeah, listen, I you know, just because I worked on this a lot, you know, so it's to William. So the Department of Transportation is the agency that has set forth all the requirements. You know, best practices are great, but when it comes to issues like this, I think it's the city needs to set out what the requirements are, and then the business needs to comply with those requirements. The problem here is that they changed the requirement retroactively to businesses who spent money on building these installations, only to be told that they have 24 hours to fix it. And the way the letter was written, in the opinion of many, seemed like they would have their privilege to use that space revoked if they didn't make the changes in 24 hours, and they would be receiving fines if they didn't within that time frame. I think both of those, again, I can't say 100%, aren't accurate in the sense that people haven't been issued fines yet, and the goal is to have people fix it within 24 hours so they can start operating again, but they're not necessarily revoking the privilege unless there were some real gross violations, not because someone within 24 hours couldn't have their carpenter come back and fix something that was built the day before based on the requirements that the city gave them. So, you know, I think everyone's trying to figure it out. Yes, there was 3 months. I think definitely there could have been plans in place in advance and this thought out, and it's a shame that it happened, but it does seem that DOT's come along. The only businesses that should have potentially been in violation would have been those businesses that had been approved within the first 4 days or so before the requirements were actually changed. So hopefully within the next week or so, those businesses have the ability to make these changes. Perhaps the idea, but it's so time sensitive that I don't know if it's realistic, would be to create some sort of fund where business could apply to for, you know, a $5,000 grant, not a loan, to help with this. You know, we're different than a lot of other communities where you've seen they've actually put out bollards and stuff to protect the outdoor dining spaces, but there's more than 25,000 restaurants in the 5 boroughs. There's already almost 7,500 restaurants that have been approved for outdoor dining. So realistically, having the city go out and place these kind of stone barriers by every single business, I don't necessarily think is realistic. One of the benefits that we did get in the program is that there's no cost. You didn't have to hire an architect to draw the plans. You didn't have to have an architect certify them. You don't have to pay for the sidewalk space. You don't have to pay for any permits, any consent fees. So everything was waived. In fact, I mean, they almost did like an emergency overlay where you can have outdoor dining in areas that the current law doesn't permit. So a lot more restaurants that couldn't even get a sidewalk cafe are able to benefit from the outdoor dining. So it would be my opinion that if we are going to submit some letter, it is not just to poke a finger in the eye and say, you know, you messed up. I think they know that. I think they are willing and working hard to try to fix it. If anything, I would say what I think Alon said is, you know, if there could be some sort of fund set up to assist small business owners who do not have the capital in building these out, that would be very helpful. But then clearly there's a lot of specs about, who is eligible to receive that funding, where does the funding come from? Clearly the city and the state are in dire financial situation. So it'd probably have to be, so it may just be a lot of spinning our wheels.
We're also talking about a very limited period of time here because
we hope.
Okay, before we continue, I want to give Paul a chance to join in. Paul, I believe Paul joined by phone, and I believe Paul, if you are hearing us, I think you have to unmute yourself on the phone. I think it starts 6 to unmute yourself, and then you can talk if you like.
Start 6, Paul.
Well, if you get to mute, we'll give you a chance. Okay.
Okay. Susan Schwartz has her hand up.
Yeah. Go ahead, Susan.
Thanks, guys. One thing that concerns me is that the servers appear to be at risk, particularly in Columbus Avenue. I live near AG Kitchen / Harvest Kitchen / whatever kitchen, and watching the servers walk back and forth through the bike lane, that just looks really scary to me. And I have to say, in this really dire situation, when there's so much less car traffic and the bikes seem not to be really staying in the bike lanes, I have to wonder why the bike lane is so sacrosanct. And I'm sorry to say something so controversial. I know I seem like I'm anti-bike. I'm not. I had a Schwinn varsity bike. I used to love biking. But I have to say, it seems like maybe the bike lane should be repurposed for the restaurants, because the restaurants are really, no, Josh, no?
No, it'll never happen. I'm not disagreeing with you. It's dangerous. It's very dangerous, but it's never going to happen.
I just want to say it out loud in a small group here, at least, to say that, as I walk by Harvest Kitchen and there's this sign, it's just terrifying to watch.
I see it with, in Amsterdam as well, on the west side of the street. The bikes are whizzing by. I mean, at speeds that are, it's like the Jetsons when you would see the things go by. That's what it looks like to me. It's just like this. And I do worry about the servers that walk from but the best you can do is just.
And the customers.
And the customers, but if the customers are sitting, it's not as bad. It's more for the servers who are back and forth. And there's no good solution. They're never the bike lane's not going to get moved, because that takes away a lane of traffic. I don't have a good solution. There is no good solution.
There was a proposal. When this was being incubated, to have the bike lane and the hash-marked floating parking lane switched, so that the bikes would go outside the restaurant, so that the servers and the patrons didn't have to go across the green strip. And
there are so many.
And that was surprisingly a non-starter which made a lot of sense to me and a lot of other folks on those calls. And it was a non-starter. They it was dismissed out of hand. So
because TA actually approved it.
Oh my! And even on the side,
they wanted
now.
But, okay.
No, I'm just saying that it was very bike friendly. But so that was the decision, because we took that walk that day. Linda was there.
Yeah, Barbara.
Officials and Barbara and many people. And so, I was going to ask
Josh.
Completely mixed that who DOT made the final decision, because I thought that was still outstanding.
But you know what they're doing? I just have to tell you very quickly. They are degreasing the bike lanes on Amsterdam Avenue and repainting them. So.
They repaved, they repaved.
They repaved, yeah. But even on 71st Street, for example, between Columbus and Central Park West, there's I forget the names of the restaurants now. Whatever's there now, it used to be Cafe La Fortuna, Santa Fe maybe, or whatever it's called, and Big Nick's.
Nick's too.
Thank you. The other day I saw like a pedicab and 3 bikes going the wrong way on 71st, and the people are spilling out in the street, and it's just so terrifying to watch this. And I feel like at least if you could make the restaurant and then the overflow into the street one unit, so that it would be one protected glob, that everyone, the servers and
I think if this were something, and this is an interesting point that's been made over and over again, I think if this were an ongoing thing, if we had an endless summer and this was Naples, Florida, and it would be going on through December and January, but this program's over in a few months. So I think this is kind of a remedial thing to try and help the restaurants.
Well, the other, to that point, Linda, the other question I have is, I hope it doesn't continue, but I fear it will. So when the weather gets a bit colder, how will they be able to have heat lamps outside? Because I think it'd be great if they could continue to be out there until like September, not September, but like October, November. Because
October 31st, it's over.
Okay.
Well, currently the
planning for that.
Well, currently the use of the parking space is only through Labor Day.
I think that's right.
And there's no plans right now to go beyond that for that space. The sidewalk space is through October right now.
That's right.
I have seen some responsible restaurants put some signs for their patrons inside the barrier saying, please be careful of bicyclists. And I've also seen a few rogue signs that just have said to the bicyclists, but slow down. I was on a city bike last night going north on Amsterdam, and there were a few patrons who may have had a few, and and they walked right in front of me, didn't even look, and I had to stop in my tracks. So it's concerning.
Well, let's I think that anybody who's worked in a bar or a restaurant or any kind of thing, most people don't read the signs. So as much as we want to say that's helpful, people don't, they barely even look at the stoplights or so.
Unless something happened to them and then they're reading all the signs.
Exactly.
You know what was effective is Jeremy at Harvest Kitchen, maybe he's not still doing it, but the first couple of days, he had one of those yellow plastic beware of the wet floor signs, like what they put up when they're mopping. And he put it right in the middle of the bike lane, which, the bikes had to navigate around it. And I thought that was clever. But,
until someone
his
swerved.
face looks amazing.
Talk to a biker about that, Mark.
that would be me. Remember how I broke my hip and my wrist? So.
He's a biker. So I think the consensus is we could reframe this idea and say, it's up and running and we really appreciate it. And is there some way that we can? Is there some kind of fund? Is there some kind of, or do you have some kinds of barriers, the big plastic barriers, or something that we can loan restaurants that can't afford to, to put up their own barriers, or should we just abandon this whole idea and call it a day? What's the consensus, guys? I don't need more work. So.
I would be in favor of abandoning it. I don't think that DOT has what you want. There's too many restaurants in New York City to provide people with proper barriers. And I just think it's, it's a phone call anyway, if that's all we're asking them for. Do you have barriers for all our restaurants? But
we've already asked them. They said that they're using a lot of their barriers to protect the statues.
Yeah, probably also
I have an idea, and I'm not exactly sure how this falls into SLA laws and everything else, and you can't really compel the big companies, but some of the big alcohol companies and food distributors, I know they're getting hurt right now too, but if Anheuser-Busch were to put out barriers,
they can't.
They're not allowed to do that because you can't cross over the.
Yeah.
They'd get hurt a lot less if the restaurants were open.
They're not allowed, they're not allowed to have. Like some of the restaurants have the umbrellas which advertise certain beer and so on.
But just Linda, just the restaurants aren't open because it's a safety issue. That's really the bottom line here. Yeah. It's all about safety. All of this is safety.
Yes.
Okay. Whether we think it's good or bad for business, this is just about the greater good and safety.
Yeah.
That's my opinion.
Well,
I'd be inclined not to do a letter right now, Linda.
I don't own a restaurant, and you do, and I defer to you.
Well,
okay, so we're not going to do the
alcohol company. You could have other suppliers and providers, contribute
Cisco.
money or contribute. But that's what I was talking about, the fund. But to raise all the money, normally they'll give to a 501c3. Maybe they'll give directly to the business. How do you determine it? There's so many restaurants, it gets very wieldy and complicated very quickly.
And it's really a short program.
Yeah.
Let's hope.
Okay, Susan, you want to talk?
Susan, you have your hand up.
I know it's not my strong suit to say something positive, but I want to say that in terms of the Department of Sanitation, the restaurants are doing a spectacular job of cleaning up. This is one of the concerns I had was, okay, The restaurants are out there overnight. It's 11 o'clock. Many of you don't know, I worked in restaurants for 2 years after college. I was a baker. So I'm part of the kitchen staff, and I appreciate what it takes to clean. Bravo. And I think there should be some sort of accolade given to the restaurants for the cleanup job they're doing, because the next morning there's no mess. It's
There's
really
there's no business, so there's no trash.
well, no, but there was some business. That's not true. But still, people are eating out in the street and they're cleaning up. So I don't know if
You're right about that.
Avenue, Susan, it's the Doe Fund doing the cleaning.
Okay, well, I don't know how it's being done, but it could have been a problem and it's not. So bravo on that.
Okay, so this is going to be these are going to be some quick minutes to write.
Okay, anybody else has any other business to bring up?
Just if you guys would keep an eye on the district needs statement. Generally speaking, BCI doesn't have a whole lot in the way of budget requests, and that makes sense given your work. But if you could, when you approach the district needs statement, if you would give some thought to what lessons we've learned that relates to the COVID crisis, just as a way of, because I'll bet each of you a good beer that this is not the last time that we're going to have this conversation.
Right.
And so rather than inventing the wheel yet again, if we have some record of what it was that we thought of and how we went with this, that would be a great thing for the DNS.
Okay, that's a good idea.
And I just
okay.
To say one thing in terms of, I guess it's not really new business, but just an observation. It's my non-scientific poll. I've been observing a lot of issues between landlords and tenants, and this increasing pressure right now of the interpretation of the new city law and state law. And my experience to date is that there's this, there's a disconnect. We've been sort of recommending to tenants to speak to your landlord and work things out. And we're hoping that landlords will work some things out with their tenants. But now we have some artificial, well, not artificial, we have deadlines. We have the August 20th eviction moratorium, the executive order. We have the September 30th voiding of the personal guarantees. And what I'm finding is that in some cases, landlords are not having any conversations with their tenants. And I believe it's to get past the September 30th or August 20th threshold so they can then have leverage and slam the tenants back. And I'm having a real problem. This is like about a dozen different cases in our neighborhood that is troubling.
Yeah, I think the landlords need to come around on something, because I think both the governor said it during a press conference that it's too early, but as that August date approaches, he'll revisit having to extend it. The council had said we will revisit, that September 30th date based on the situation. So, it seems like they're just rolling the dice, because there's a chance that both of those could get extended.
But I also think the landlords are getting hammered by increases in taxes. Their water bills are going up. Their expenses aren't going down. And I think if we expect the landlords to be able to because they're really forbearance for them. I mean, if we expected the landlords to take a hit, and don't forget they have their lenders, they have their loans to deal with and their mortgages, then we need the city or the state or the federal government to give them some kind of a subsidy so that they can offer the lower rents. And that's it's a really holistic thing.
I agree.
Not just the tenants.
Yeah, but they're all. I agree, and I agree in definitely in cases, but at the same time, I think they're all very concerned about their property values, which have skyrocketed over the years, and they are worried about renegotiating anything because, God forbid, the value of their portfolio goes down. So they're trying to deny the reality.
They've also taken loans based on those
properties that increase whatever it is tenfold in value. I don't know, I'm making up that number, will now get back down to a reality, and probably a really bad reality. And they purchased buildings in a high market, and now they're not worth as much. So I think there's a lot of not wanting to accept the reality on their end, and they'd almost rather have a vacant space than have to renegotiate and reduce the value of their building.
No one wants a vacant space.
And Andrew, it's not just that. It's that the value of the property as listed as an asset going concern becomes a part of the collateral for a lot of their debt.
Yeah.
And generally speaking, the value of the collateral dictates the interest rate. And therefore, they're looking at increasing their own debt service if they, in effect, come clean with the new reality.
Yeah.
And that's only if their lenders accept it. It's only if their lenders, you know, we gave you the loan based on this valuation, only the reality of it is in this new world, it's worth this. Oh, and by the way, your taxes still went up 17%, your city taxes. And the biggest hit that any business owner in the city gets is city taxes. So there's got to be some give and take here.
Yeah.
Because the only way,
and that's why it's the federal government. I don't know how much power the city or state government has here. I think that the federal government, which is highly unlikely, needs to bring the banks, the landlords, and the commercial tenants to the table and try to figure out how to restructure these leases and these mortgages. And if needed in certain
did you hear Governor Cuomo today?
I didn't know. Is that what he was saying?
No, he's saying, bring it on, Trump. He said, you want to not give us any money? Fine. I'm still here. That's what he said, literally, verbatim.
Well, yeah, he's been threatened by him, but it is very nuanced, and I agree. There's certain situations where, as Mark said, loan documents dictate what a landlord can do, and sometimes there's something referred to as a cash trap. I don't want to get too granular, but sometimes what will happen is if there are changes in leases and the risk of the portfolio, the money doesn't even go to the landlord anymore. It gets pulled over into a reserve fund. There's a lot of very difficult things. But by the way, there's also a lot of trickiness going on. I've noticed. I've heard a few cases where some slick managing agents called up and said, sign this extension or sign this little waiver or sign this renewal, because the way the law is written, and I'm not a lawyer, but if you make a new agreement during this time, your waiver of the guarantee is voided. So we've had to defend against some trickery too. So even though these dates are maybe semi-permeable and they may be extended, but what's also happening is some of the tenants who are truly in trouble, not bad actors who are saying, I'm going to stay here, I'm not going to pay, I'm just going to live it out and I'm going to leave.
Yeah.
But some tenants are really in trouble. They're saying, please make a deal with me, Mr. Landlord. They're not hearing from their landlord. And they're afraid if this law is going to stay in full effect, because there are now going to be challenges to it. Some people are saying it's unconstitutional. So they're saying, well, I'd like to operate lawfully and take advantage of this law that was passed, but they're worried that it may be overturned. So we're in this crazy, weird capitulation right now. I'm just sharing my experience. It's a business issue.
We're not going to write a letter to DOT.
Sounds like we're a wrap.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you all.
Well, thank you all.
Thank you all.
See you next time.
Be safe.
Good night.
Bye.
Thanks all.
Well done.
Bye-bye.
Bye.